Welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined as always when we're talking wrestling, NCAA tournaments coming up, my co-host and Happy Valley Insiders wrestling analyst, Joey Klender. Joey, exciting Big Tens just ended recently. NCAAs are coming up. Brackets just got released. A whole lot going on with the wrestling world. But before that, I do want to say this podcast is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek, the number one ticketing app on the web. Your go-to app for all concert venues, sporting events, etc. Use the promo code Penn State Rivals, all one word, all capitals, and you get $20 off your first purchase. First purchase only, though, so if you've used SeatGeek before, just make a new account and get the $20 off again. SeatGeek, your go-to app for all sporting events, and I misread that last sentence, but whatever. Anyway, back to the more important stuff. Wrestling, Penn State Wrestling has a bunch of things going on. NCAAs are coming up. It's in Pennsylvania this year. Before we even get into the weight classes, how do we feel Penn State just performed at the Big Ten tournament, and high-level thoughts on how they're going to perform in the NCAAs?
Well, I think as a whole, the team obviously did a really great job. Obviously, there was a few guys that didn't perform as we expected, and there were a few guys that, outperformed our expectations. Luke Lilladall is the first one that comes to mind. We did have him making the finals. We didn't have the brackets at the time, so we figured that he would probably be with Ramos in the finals. But he ended up hitting him in the semis and majored him. So really, really good performance from him. And then he beat Smith again in the finals. So great showing from him. In terms of all the other guys, I mean, we were pretty close to accurate on most of them. I know that we were pretty close on Davis. We were pretty close on Bartlett. Van Ness, I'm just going to stop saying what I say about him because I think I'm starting to jinx it at this point. Yeah. So I'm going to just refrain from that. But as a whole, pretty impressed with everybody. I think that Big Tens was a good confidence booster for some guys in the lineup and a good reality check for others. Just showing that, there are guys that really don't care what your name is and what you've done in this sport. They're coming to win and they're going to wrestle you hard. And so, that gives everybody a week to prepare. As, the brackets came out last night. We're a week away today, so that's exciting. But really solid tournament from the guys. Can't be too disappointed with how the team performed as a whole.
Yeah. So let's jump right into it. 125 pounds. Luke Lilladall got the 1 seed. He's either going to face off against Caleb Weiland, the 33 seed, or Marcelo Milani, the 32 seed. Not even talking about that matchup, but in general, where do you see the kind of biggest bump in the road for him? Because having that 1 seed has to help significantly.
For sure. Luke's in a kind of an interesting spot because he has a couple guys on his side of the bracket that, he's had close matches with. A couple of them that come to mind is you have Smith, who he just beat in the Big Ten finals. He's had 2 one-point matches against him. You have Dean Peterson, who gave him his first loss of the year. You have Brendan McCrone, who pinned him in the duel after, Luke really was starting to establish his offense, super well in that match. So I think that, no matter where you end up in this bracket, obviously it's the national tournament, so you're going to hit hammers. But if you look at just how the bracket is weighed, Luke has a really tough draw, even though he's the 1 seed. Ramos at the bottom, not saying that he has an easier road to the finals, but he definitely, I feel like, has less of a chance of being upset than Luke does, just simply because of what we're seeing at the top half of the bracket where Luke is. Like I said, I mean, he's probably gonna hit Caleb Smith in the quarters on Friday morning.
Yep.
He could meet either Peterson or McCrone in the semis. There's also Vince Robinson, Joey Cruz. I know he's a 29th seed and he's 14-12, but we've seen really hot, low seeded guys make a run in March. I'm not saying it'll be him, but it'll happen somewhere in this tournament. So there's a lot of guys in this weight class that can make some noise, and it's never going to be really an easy match. So, Luke's got the potential to run through it. I mean, I think what he did against Ramos was a big confidence boost for him. but he's going to have his hands full from Friday morning on. I think,
Hmm.
his first round match and his Thursday night match, I think we can kind of expect him to walk through those matches pretty unscathed. Um, but Friday and Saturday are, they're going to be a test for him. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, this is the second straight year Penn State's had a true freshman win 25 at the conference championships, have the one seed. Last year, obviously, it didn't go so well. So Luke's got some shoes to fill and some expectations to to meet. So really interesting in terms of his draw being at the top end of that bracket.
Hmm. Gun to your head, where does he kind of finish in this one? I sounds like you don't think he wins it all, but I mean, obviously not out of the cards either.
No, I mean, I definitely think he has a better chance of winning it than Davis did last year. I think that
Hmm.
Luke is just a better wrestler. His footwork is some of the best in the entire country, in my opinion. Even for a true freshman, he's just got great head hands defense. I think that early on in the year, you started to see him kind of adjust to the strength and the speed of Division One wrestling from his prep career. So
Hmm.
he's peaking at the right time. I think that getting the win against Ramos and giving him, getting bonus against him was such a big confidence boost for him. I don't think he necessarily needed a huge confidence boost, but I think
Hmm.
him beating Ramos was kind of a sign that he can beat anybody at this weight. So I do think he has a chance to win it, and I think he absolutely can. But if I were to have a gun to my head, I would say he's a top three finisher. I think he
Okay.
definitely makes the. I think he definitely makes the semis. I think he's absolutely an All American, which is going to be huge because we've said in previous podcasts that we haven't had a 25 All American since Nico Megaludis. So,
Yeah, it's crazy.
which is crazy, but yeah, I definitely think he's on the podium, and I think third or better.
Okay, nice. Um, Kind of a little bit different question here, not Penn State related, but who's kind of a seed? It doesn't have to be a lower seed, but someone that you think could exceed expectations in this bracket.
Caleb Smith is a name that comes to mind. He's a ninth seed, and I do not expect him to be off the podium. I think he'll absolutely be an All American. I think he's a top four guy at this weight class in the country. There's quite a few seeds here, and I'm not saying that it's like I remember last year. I feel like we had some controversy with the seeding.
Yeah.
There were, I think it was a lot of it really had to do with Starachi sitting out of Big Tens and getting I think he was the nine seed last year, and
Hmm.
he had Mekhi Lewis, the one seed in the quarters.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that Smith's probably the one for me that kind of is going to exceed expectations, and I say that because he's seeded ninth, and I don't think he's the ninth best. I think he's much better than that. He's very quick. He's strong. He's got a lot of experience. This is his last go, so I think that I don't think he beats Luke because I think Luke's kind of been able to neutralize his offense a lot, and he's
Hmm.
wrestled him really well the two times they've wrestled. But I don't think he'll get past Luke, but I do think he'll end up on the podium. Yeah.
Okay. 133 pounds. Braden Davis got the eighth seed.
Mhm.
Not a great showing at Big Tens. A little bit of a down year, I guess you could say, for Davis, considering what he
Yeah.
did last season, but different weight
Yeah.
class, of course. So, where do we kind of see him kind of figuring this one out? I know he faces the 25 seed out of Bucknell to start.
Yeah. I mean, Davis. I know how I've spoken about him this year,
Hmm.
and even last year. I've kind of been a little too critical of him maybe at times. But you just truly don't know which version of him is going to show up.
Hmm.
I think he puts himself in a lot of positions that are super compromising, and that's kind of been my bone to pick with him. Along with, I think his attitude at times is a little questionable, and I know I've talked about that, but um, I, this is one where I just don't know because I think Penn State really has a shot at having 10 All Americans this year. And I think
Hmm.
this is the best opportunity they have to do so. But if I had to pick one guy that would not be an All American, it would probably be Davis. And I think it's just because I'm not super sold on him going out there and taking care of business like the other nine guys in the lineup. Um, I, I really would like to say I'm confident in him being an All American, but I'm not. I'm not super confident in him making the podium. even as an 8 seed. I think that there's that Thursday night matchup against Braxton Brown is what kind of worries me, because I think that once you lose that early, as we saw with KSAC last year, you have to win a lot of matches in a row just to be an All-American. Not to finish third. You have to win 7 in a row to finish third. You have to wrestle 3 or 4 in a row and win just to make the podium after you lose early. Not necessarily first round, but second round. When guys lose and they get dropped down there, two things happen. One, and if there are any Iowa fans that watch this, they're going to be pissed that I say this, but I don't really care. We've seen guys who are really, really good lose, and then they just default from the tournament. Alex Marinelli did it once. I believe Spencer Lee did it when he got pinned by Ramos. I know there's another one from 10 or 11 years ago that did Matt McDonough. It was Matt McDonough. So it was more than 10 years ago. That's one thing. The other thing is the Kasich thing, or, there's, I believe maybe one of the Dardanes did it from Minnesota back in the day. You lose first round and you get dropped to that consolation bracket and you come to the realization that you're not going to win it this year. So you respond one of two ways, and there's a way where you lose and you realize you're not going to be a national champ, but you realize you still have a chance to place and contribute points to the team and help your team win a team title and all those things. I hope that if he loses that match to Braxton Brown, he adopts the mindset that it's about more than him. I'm not saying that he's given me a reason to think that he's some selfish prick and that he's just going to quit and be like, oh, fuck this, I'm done. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I just hope that if that does happen and he gets dropped to that consolation bracket early, that he adopts a mindset like, okay, I'm not going to win it this year, whatever. Let me still be an All-American. Let me win 1 or 2 more matches. Let's get some bonus for the team. Let's lock up this team title, whatever. So yeah, it's just tough. It's tough. There's a lot of really good guys here. Davis has not performed well against the really good kids in the country at this weight. Bird absolutely little boyed him in that dual meet. I mean, Bird did whatever he wanted that entire match. So I don't think that he's going to be in the finals. Best case scenario, he makes the semis and he meets Bird and whatever. But I just... It's tough for me to say what I think Davis will do. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Any under the radar guys to potentially keep an eye on, in your opinion?
Van D is a big one that comes to mind. I know that he'll probably get Bird Thursday night, so that's just kind of a crappy draw for him. But he's a guy that I see as a little more hard nosed. And, if he gets dropped back to the wrestlebacks, that he could make some noise down there. I think that this is kind of a way out of left field kind of thing, but I think Nick Bouzakis could really make some noise in this bracket as a 7 seed. I think he could do really, really well. Evan Frost is another one at the 11 seed I think could do really well, but I really do think that Bird is probably the guy to beat here. He's just looked really solid this year. He pinned Ayala. I don't expect that to happen again, but he's just really solid in all positions. He almost kind of reminds me of the 33 that Illinois had a few years ago that I'm trying to think of what his name was. He did do some international stuff for a while. I remember Jimmy Goulabon used to have the worst time with him. And I'm trying to remember that kid's name. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It's all good.
Yeah.
If you remember,
Zane Richards. Richards.
There you go then.
Okay, that's who he reminds me of. Just hard nosed, really good in all the positions. Very I don't know if strict is the word, but just really fundamentally sound. That's who he kind of reminds me of. So
fair enough. 141 pounds. Bo Bartlett got the 2 seed. We talked about this before Big Tens. Bo Bartlett gets a little juice going, and then just falls apart. So do we kind of see that happening again here in NCAA's, or do you think maybe that was that one loss that he needed to kind of turn things around?
Well, I think this is going to be the best weight of the entire tournament
Okay.
because I think that there's there's a lot of guys here that can win it. Hardy's peaking at the right time,
Mhm.
and he's somebody who I could see definitely winning this weight class, especially as the 1 seed. But let's not forget Mendez. Let's not forget Bo. Let's not forget, Von Bar. I mean, there's a lot of guys at 33 that can win, and then you have Alvarez, who is the national champ, who redshirted last year, and he's the
Mhm.
8 seed, which is crazy. So there's a lot of really really good guys here. Jameson from Oklahoma State's another one. This is going to be a real test for Bo because there are guys at this weight who are game for anything, and they're going to really give you a match. And nobody's gonna keel over and give you the run.
Mhm.
So that's where things are really interesting because as we've said all year and for the past several years, you never know what Bo Bartlett is going to show up,
Mhm.
and you don't know if he's going to be offensive. You don't know if he's going to wrestle his match. I mean, there's a lot of weird things going on. I mean, you just don't know which version is going to show up. Um, the encouraging thing about this is the fact that he has beaten Mendez twice now, and they've wrestled 3 times this year, and the only time he's lost was in the exhibition at the All Star meet,
Mhm.
which wasn't really a close match as far as I'm concerned. Mendez controlled every aspect of that match,
Mhm.
but Bo has really done a great job at neutralizing Mendez's attacks with the head hands defense, and he's also just kind of he's been able to get to a leg, get a takedown, and kind of use those points. I don't really love that it's like a race to the first takedown between those two because those matches go either way.
Mhm.
It just so happens that Bo's won 2 of them. I hate to say it. I say this during football season, like the Ravens. I didn't want them to play the Bengals in the playoffs because
Mhm.
this is what that reminds me of. It's just they're really really close matchups. It's two really good teams, they're really good guys, and it can
Mhm.
really just kind of go either way because nobody definitively wins. And the more times you play somebody, the more times you wrestle somebody, the more of a chance there is that you lose to them. And
Mhm.
so, do I think he can beat Mendez a third time? Absolutely, because he's beaten him twice. But they've just never been overwhelmingly convincing matches. I think the duel was probably a better match for Bo than the Big Tens were. Um, but very interesting bracket here, and like we always say, it just kind of depends on which version of Bo shows up.
Mhm. I know you mentioned like some of the big names and top seeds, but any like middle or lower seeds that really stand out to you in this one?
Let's see.
I know you kind of went through a couple different ones actually. I take it back.
CJ Composto's somebody who I think could be on the podium. I'm just like really surprised with the Alvarez seeding. I mean, he's 16-1. I know he didn't wrestle a lot of matches, but pretty surprised for him to get that low of a seed. Um, you know, he's going to be looking at he's going to be looking at Hardy probably Friday morning, which is kind of crappy, but I mean, it's good for us. I mean, there's a real chance that he beats Hardy and makes the semis, and then it's kind of anybody's ball game at that point.
It's fair. That'd be fun. 149 pounds. Shane Van Ness lost his first match of the Big Ten championships. Or second? No, his
Who did he
first,
lose
wasn't it?
to? He lost
Uh,
to.
I gotta go back now. Now you
Trying to
got me.
think of who he
Now you got me
lost to.
looking.
He lost to Webster of Illinois, I believe.
I think you're right. Either way, bounced back 3 straight after that. Finished with a 22 record on the year. I know you say
Yeah, I don't
seems
want
like
to talk about it.
okay, fair enough. We're not even gonna talk about it. We're just gonna let it
I
go.
keep jinxing it.
It's just don't say anything bad about him, and that's it. We're good.
Yeah, yeah.
So how do you think this one kind of plays out for him?
Really, this is really tough because I just really want to say that
Just runs through
he's
it.
going to win it. I would love to say that he wins it, but I think I might have um, over. I might have overstated my confidence in him.
Hmm.
I thought that Van Ness at the beginning of this year, I thought he would come out just the way he wrestled um, in that All Star match against who did he wrestle? He wrestled that tall kid, Ty Waters.
Hmm.
Um, the way he came out and dominated him, and just the way he, his freshman year he took third and he wrestled really well all year, and you know, I thought he was going to be the kind of guy who comes out and it's just like bonus points every time. And I know he's only lost 2 matches this year, but the Lovett match he lost by major. I don't think anybody thought he would lose that match the other night. Him and Bo looked pitiful in the semis, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. They just didn't have any juice to them. I mean, it was like it was pitiful to watch. It was like, who the hell are these guys? These are not the guys we've watched all year, at least from Van Ness's standpoint. Bo, I mean, you can kind of be like a little more critical and say like, sometimes he just doesn't show up, and it's kind of very frustrating. But you don't really expect that from him. This one's tough because I think Henson's probably the guy again, because he just is the only one who hasn't veered from the path. I mean, he's still undefeated. He's wrestled super solid all year, and I think a lot of people really kind of expected Van Ness to be the guy, but I don't think that that's necessarily come to fruition for whatever reason. I don't know why. I just kind of think he doesn't really wrestle his match sometimes, and I think that happens. But then he like comes out against Parco and just dominates him twice, which makes no sense. I mean, that third place match or Consi semi match, I think it was, whatever whenever he wrestled Parco Big Tens. I mean, it was just an absolute ass whipping, and the duel was an ass whipping. I mean, neither of those matches were close. So yeah, I mean, he's gonna be looking at either probably Lovett or Webster again in the semis, I would think. And so he's definitely got some demons to exercise at early on in the tournament. I really want him to go out there and get offensive and ride guys hard and get turns and get points and kind of pick up some momentum, because I really think the worst thing he could do is have like one of those matches where it's sort of lackluster and your confidence is shaken a little bit going into those quarters and those semis. So yeah, I am hoping that he kind of just goes out and takes care of business early. If that happens, I think that he could make a real run at it, and I think he could beat Henson. I think he's very capable of beating Henson, but I think he just needs to go out and do what he needs to do. I think if he doesn't go out and score points and get offensive, I think, you're going to have more trouble kind of believing that he's going to take care of business later on in the tournament. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I mean, I don't know. I hate to use the word disappointed, but because he's only lost twice, and even losing at Big Tens in the semis and then having to take third, like, yeah, that sucks. But he's had a very good year. I think he just needs to put it all together.
Any under the radar guys to really keep an eye on? It seems like there's some notable names like Sammy Alvarez. I know he went to Ryder after Rutgers for a couple years. Is there D'Amelio?
Yeah, and Jaden Abbas is at the top, and he's probably going to get Henson in the second round. But he's the one that beat Kasich last year, the very first round.
Okay,
and sent Kasich to the Consi. So there's guys like that you have to pay attention to, because they know how to keep a match close in those early rounds. And when you see the higher seeded guys getting those close matches early, I don't think you necessarily start to see panic, but you do. I think their confidence kind of is like, okay, why? Like, what's going on here? Why am I only up 2 against the 18th seed or whatever? Guys like that can kind of be a thorn in people's side. So be interesting to watch, some of these guys in the lower seeds as things move on. So
fair enough. Oh no, that's the same bracket. Hold on, where am I at? 157, Tyler Kasich finished season 18-1, fresh off a Big Ten championship. How do we think this one kind of rolls out? You think he kind of just runs through it for the most part?
I think so, but I think that Shapiro is going to give him a good match if that's what ends up happening.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I worry about him with is his head. Not mentally, but physically, because he gets bopped in the face a lot, and he ends up getting concussions and bloody, getting cut up and stuff like that. So
makes it pretty exciting, though. I will say
it does. But I mean, I would just hate for him to get. I would just hate for him to get popped in the face on Friday morning, and we're worried about it, whether he's got all his marbles for the rest of the tournament. So, but yeah, I do expect him to win this weight. I think he's really established himself as the guy at this weight. And what's really funny is that he wasn't even the guy at the beginning of the year, because he was wrestling off for this weight.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy. And, that one loss was an injury default, and it was to the Maryland kid. And, he was sitting there celebrating because he beat Tyler Kasich by injury default, and then he couldn't even make it to the semis of the Big Ten. So, yeah, I think Kasich's the guy here. I really, he's one of the ones I'm a little more confident in terms of the Penn State lineup. I'll get into who I think is just a guarantee and who I don't think. I wouldn't say that I think Kasich's a guarantee, but he is right below that guarantee.
It's funny you mentioned the bloody face thing, because we make the graphics ahead of time, of course.
Yeah,
you got to tweet them out as soon as it happens. But so I'm making his, and I was like, damn, I can't really find a good photo other than the one with the bloody face. And I'm like, shit. And then all of a sudden he gets cut, and I'm like, all right, never mind. This will work. So hilarious how that all plays out. Under the radar guys in this one, anyone to really watch? X Factor type, I guess.
Yeah. I think Caleb Fish is somebody to watch from Oklahoma State. I think that Kobe Seabrick is somebody to watch out of South Dakota State.
Teamer? No? I know he's
the 18 seed is insane. I mean, 12 matches this year, and you lost 4 of them. I mean, I could see him definitely making some noise, but I'll tell you what, it kind of almost sucks for Shapiro to have to wrestle him in the second round, because Teamer is not a slouch. I mean, he might have a shit seed, but I mean, he's a good wrestler. So definitely some interesting stuff. I think Teamer could be in the mix, but I think it kind of depends. It depends what kind of shape he's in, because I think he's been dealing with nagging injuries just for most of the year. So.
Is there any and you would know this better than I would, is there any real reasoning behind the seeding, for a guy like Teamer to get 18? I know is it just because he only wrestled 12 times this year?
I think that's part of it, but I also think, you took 7th at Big Tens, and I think that other guys just have a lot better argument. I don't know if he's 18. To me seems very harsh.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's do I think he's the 18th best guy at this weight? No, absolutely not. I think he's much better than that. But when you only wrestle 12 matches, you're dealing with injuries, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the thing that I struggle with seeding is last year with Starachi, and I'm not saying the Teamer is Starachi by any means, but I'm just making this argument. Starachi didn't lose a match all year, and then he injury defaulted out of those 2 Big Ten tournament matches because he had to because of the injury. And then he gets pushed to the 9th seed. And it's nobody thought he wasn't going to be a top 8 wrestler. Nobody thought that he was the 9th best guy at that weight.
No.
The seeding for me at times needs to be a little more subjective to a little more accepting of opinion. Because I think that putting Starachi at 9 last year was just really kind of stupid. Just my thought. I think there are guys where does Teamer deserve a 2 seed? No, absolutely not. But I think 18 is just a little harsh. Just me.
Yeah, no, I get it. 165 pounds. Mitch Messenbrink gets the 1 seed again, fresh off a nice little championship in Big Tens.
Yep.
He just looked pretty damn dominant. I just don't know. Is there anyone that can really compete with him in this?
I did like that we saw a little bit more scrappiness from Caliendo this time,
Hmm.
and he kept the match pretty close. But this is one of those weights where you could any amount of money, I would bet that Mitch wins. I just am that confident in him.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, there are some guys in here that can make some noise, but I just don't think anybody's really going to be able to keep up with Mitch and how he's wrestled this year and how dominant it's been. Um, I expect to see him and Caliendo in the finals again. I know that Peyton Hall's had a hell of a year too, down at the 2 seed, but
Hmm.
Caliendo's, I think he's the second best guy at this weight in the country. And I also love seeing Bear Claw at the 4 seed, former Penn State guy,
Hmm.
transferred out. He's doing super well for himself. So really happy to see him. It's just unfortunate he's at on the top half with Mitch. I don't think this one's too much of a question, to be completely honest.
Yeah. I mean, you said it. Obviously, Mitch is above the rest, but it seems like this is just a very top-heavy bracket too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of guys up in that top half. You're right, that are super solid. Um,
Like top 6, 7
yeah,
seeds, probably, I'd
and
say. And
yeah, yeah. Even eight, I mean,
hmm
is a good wrestler. Um, I think my real question for this bracket is how many matches with Mitch are going to go the distance. I don't think too
that's
many.
interesting.
I think that he probably bonuses
Yeah.
his way to the finals. I think that Friday night semi match will be a major. I think that will be the only one that doesn't get stopped by Tech or by Pin.
You said the Friday night
Uh,
one?
yeah, I think the semis, if
Yeah.
he hits Bear Claw, it'll probably be a major. I think he probably bonuses his way through this tournament, to be completely honest.
Yeah. Well, should be a nice, easy
Yeah.
bracket for him. 174. Levi Haynes got the 2 seed. I know he won the Big Tens. I know Keegan O'Toole was undefeated, but I feel like SEC versus Big Ten. Like you win the Big Ten, I feel like you almost gotta give him the 1 seed. But I know he has
Well,
not
he
a
lost
not
to
a.
Keegan this year. That's his
That's
only
the pro.
loss.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. And it was a very close match. Um,
Do you think?
this one's. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this: do you think? Because obviously they're the 1 and 2 seed, and then they're probably above the rest by far. But do you think those two meet in the finals? Because Keegan's actually got an interesting little bracket. Because I see Pinto there, I see Ruiz.
Thing that
Um,
Keegan has over a lot of guys, and we saw this in the Big 12 finals with them in the match with Hamity,
mhm,
was Hamity was beating him a majority of that match, and Keegan got a takedown in the last minute, I think, to take it to sudden victory,
mhm,
and then just beat Hamity in sudden victory. Um, Keegan's got the experience thing going for him
mhm.
against a lot of guys. And so I'm having a hard time seeing where he loses a match in this tournament other than the finals, because I do think Levi will get the best. I think Levi will beat him this time.
Mhm.
My concern with Levi is, he jumped up 2 weight classes and he went from being very dominant to still dominant. But I think he's had some closer matches this year, and that's what kind of is a little concerning for me moving into the later portion of the tournament. Um, I don't know. This one's kind of difficult because I do think Levi will be in the finals. I just think that, like last year, it was kind of iffy whether it was going to be O'Toole or Carr, and Mitch kind of got like a good break with that seeding because he was on the opposite side of the bracket of the two of them, and then Carr ended up beating O'Toole, and it was like, you
Mhm.
know, it was a big freaking deal. Um, it's not really like that this year because I think that Keegan's just better than everybody at the top half of that weight. Uh, as far as Haynes goes, it's really tough for me to see because I just think that match is going to be very close if they hit in the finals. I think it's going to be just like the
Mm-hmm.
match earlier this year. I think it's going to be maybe a little controversial. I think there's going to be a call involved that might go one way or another or whatever. They're just so evenly matched. I think it's like kind of tough to say which way that's going to go. But I do expect to see the two of them in the finals. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of lower level guys or lower ranked guys. Anyone that specifically stands out? I know Cade Devos finished what, seventh, eighth last
I
year.
think
So, I mean,
seventh or eighth
and
last
he's got
year.
the what 23 seed this year.
Yeah.
Um,
Jackson Turley at the 30 seed. I mean,
he's a head case.
he's an All American. Yeah, but he was an All American.
Hmm.
So I think there's some argument for him. Lenny Pinto is at the 8 seed, and then you have Karchla from Ohio State who gave Haynes a really good match at the 9 seed.
Well, it's
So
like you said before, like you lose that first round match, you gotta
yeah,
be in a good mental state, and I don't see him beating Hamidi,
no, no.
so that might end up screwing him a little bit.
Yeah, I think that he's going to get dropped down that consolation bracket in the first round, and then you just kind of have to hope that he could do something at the down there in the wrestlebacks. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, you just never know because next Thursday morning we could be sitting here and we could be laughing about how we talked about Turley and he
Hmm.
doesn't have a chance to beat Hamidi, and then he
Then he
beats
wins.
Hamidi somehow. That's the thing. That's a beautiful thing about this tournament.
Hmm.
But yeah, I do think that it'll be Keegan and Haynes in the finals. So
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to 184. Carter Stracci. I know we talked about this off the pod, but you think there's a chance that he doesn't pull this one off this year?
yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting weight for him, and there's a lot of guys here that I think are potentially. I don't think that he'll have really a tough match till Friday night.
Okay.
But my thing is that the the McAnally match was a bit of a wake up call for him because he got taken down and he got taken down quick. Like when McAnally got to that leg, it was pretty much like 3 seconds later, 3 or 4 seconds later. Um, and Kekais, and I know that match at the beginning of the year was pretty close, but Parker didn't seem to have the conditioning at that time, and I think that Carter's conditioning really saved him in that Big 12 or that Big 10 finals match. I do think that I do think that he wins, but I don't think it's as close. I don't think it's as like definitive as some might think. I think that he will win. Um, but Carter's not a super offensive guy, and that's what kind of holds me to be a little bit more conservative with my expectations for him because I don't think there's a whole hell of a lot of guys here that could pull it off, but I think of the top four there are some options there, and that's what kind of makes me a little bit nervous for this is because those top four guys, if they're able to neutralize what attacks he does have and they wrestle a really smart match and they can take him into sudden victory, all you have to do is wait for him to kind of slip up. And do I think Carter's the best guy in the country at this weight? Yeah, but the best guy doesn't always win, and that's kind of, I mean, that sucks, but that's just kind of how it is. Um, I'm just, I'm not as sold on this as I am with a couple other weights in terms of confidence of who my pick is.
Hmm.
Um, I think Mitch is a much safer pick than Carter is. I think Mitch is a much safer pick than nine other weight classes. There's only one weight class where I think there's a more definitive answer, and that's heavyweight. But Carter's probably like third or fourth in terms of confidence level. But I
Okay.
just think there's absolutely a chance that something happens. I mean that's any bracket, but to me, with him, he's just not. He doesn't get after it, and he doesn't get after it as much as most guys. So that's where kind of that little seed of doubt kind of seeps in for me.
I know you said there's a chance of anything happening. Any chance we see Gabe Arnold versus Carter happening?
No, no.
It's just insane. For all that shit talking for nothing.
Yep.
Like just
I won't believe that. No. And, I think that obviously Gabe Arnold was the smarter choice of the two to go with this year, but
yeah.
I think that Ferrari would have been a better choice for Iowa going forward. I mean, that's just me.
I
But
mean, yeah, obvious, but
smart thing as a program to put Arnold out there. So
I get it. Josh Barr, 197 pounds, number 4, so 4 seed. Healthy is the first question, and then how much of a run can he make if healthy?
I've heard that he's healthy. So
And also
that's
100% healthy or healthy.
that's where the lingering question is the how healthy, because he's got Trey Munoz second round probably. I know he walked through Michael Beard pretty easily earlier this year, but if you're kind of dealing with a sore hamstring, that kind of
that's lingering 100%.
that can linger, right? And it only takes one little tweak with a hamstring. So, there's some interesting questions with Barr here. I think that Cardenas really wrestled super well at Big Tens, and he got those 2 wins late in the tournament, and he ended up getting the 1 seed. I think that really showed that this could go one of 4, or this could go any of the 4 ways that are kind of presented to us, because I do think it is between those top 4 guys, between Cardenas, Buchanan, Ferrari, and Barr. One of them I'm a little more skeptical of than the others. I guess you can probably guess which one.
That's fair. It's hard to judge him when he's out there. Like, he's not wrestling top competition. Like,
no,
he's also the biggest head case in all of wrestling. So
yeah, so
that.
But very interesting. Very interesting to see what Ferrari does, and there's some other guys in this weight that can make some noise. There's Bronigal from Illinois, who I think him and his brother made the finals of the Big Tens, and then there's Isaiah Salazar, who was Big Ten champ last year at this weight. There's a lot of guys here, but I do think it's between that. There's top 4. I think it's whoever can just go out there and take care of business. I think all 4 of them are at risk, though. I think there are guys along the way for all 4 of them that really kind of make interesting matchups. So this is going to be an interesting one, I think, because I think before Big Tens, most people thought this was Buchanan's weight. They didn't think he was going to lose, and he did. So interesting.
I'm not even going to ask you about like a lower seed or anything like that. I'm going to ask you something more interesting, more fun, I guess.
Okay.
Will there be a controversy with Ferrari at some point in this tournament?
Yeah, I'm willing to guess that it probably will come down to a loss of a team point and 2 middle fingers going up. He's going to hear it. Like he's just going to hear it. He's going to hear it, and that's just how it is. I mean, he's an abrasive guy who a lot of people don't like, and he's got a very big personality. I will say that there's going to be a most muscular pose at some point during the tournament. There's going to be a split at some time. So I don't freaking know, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that he's going to cause Cal State Bakersfield a friggin' team point. I think it will happen.
I think they care.
What do
that
they
much.
care?
Yeah, at this point.
Right.
Potential champions. I mean, fuck it. I'll take the team point loss. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, sure.
The funny thing is he's 23. He's gonna be 24 next year, and still has another year of eligibility,
which is crazy.
Like, do you think he stays there, or do you think he ends up going somewhere? Like, I feel like, and this is a shot in the dark here. If you're like, say, a Rutgers, fuck it, take him on for a year. All you have to do is deal with him for 7 months, maybe max, 8 months tops.
And this is not a knock on Jersey people, including you, but
no, you're fine.
He would match the personality in that in that audit or in that gym. There's a lot of very charismatic people, I think he would fit in well. I think by the end of it, people
Culture-wise,
might
it
be
might be like, yeah.
by the end of it, people might be kind of sick of him. But I think early on, he's going to bring people there. I think he's going to sell tickets.
I think you'd be nuts not to do it
And
if you're
he'd
them.
be a great addition for a team like that. I really do think so. I do think that this is just me talking here, but he has a chance to win 97. He absolutely does. And if he does, he's going to want big freaking money. He's going to
That's
want,
the problem.
and that's why I think if he wins, he won't stay at Bakersfield. He'll go somewhere else. I don't know where he'll go because I don't know what program will take him. I know it's not
That's
going to be like a
the other
big.
problem.
Yeah, I mean, he's already been at Oklahoma State and got kicked out, and then he was at Iowa with his brother, and I don't know if he was ever officially on the team, but I don't think he's going to go back there.
Not there, whatever.
Right.
That's why I feel like that makes just the most sense. And
Yeah.
if you're Rutgers, you're struggling to get past that like top 15 level. Like that that helps you get past that top 15 level, right?
Right. I think he'd be a good addition for a team like that, honestly.
Yeah.
So-
I just don't know who else would do it, like take that risk. Like
Yeah.
there's not many Big Ten schools that are willing to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of baggage that comes along with that, and that's the thing.
That's the
So,
problem. So anyway, just an interesting little debate
Yeah.
there. Heavyweight, Gable Stevenson kind of just ran through the Big Tens, absolutely dominated. Him and Kirk in that final matchup, it was just pure domination. Basically.
it was less than entertaining from a Penn State fan perspective. It was kind of disappointing. It almost seemed like he was sort of content with what was going on, and just. I think that we kind of came to the realization right after we heard that Gable was coming back that it probably was going to be a race for second at that point. As a fan, I think it's okay to say that. As a wrestler, I don't think it's okay to behave that way and accept that you're probably going for second because,
It sucks.
Rulon Gardner beat, what was his name? Alexander Karolev or whatever. The untouchable Russian for all those years. Gable's beatable. I just think that a lot of guys go out there and they kind of just are beat before they walk out on the mat, and that's unfortunately a problem. And you don't expect to see it at the collegiate level because a lot of guys just really don't give a shit who you are or what your name is or what you've done. They want to beat you and they want to wrestle the best guys, but just didn't love the demeanor of what happened out there on Sunday. And so this is the weight I'm most confident in my pick, and it's Gable, and I just don't think anybody's going to get really close.
Now, do you think Kirk meets him in the finals? Because like Hendrickson's in the way. I actually think Jimmy Mullen of Virginia Tech can make a little bit of noise. Former 3-star football recruit, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he can absolutely get there. I think that he's capable of beating Hendrickson. I believe he beat Hendrickson pretty good at Nationals last year. Of course, that was when he was at Air Force, but I feel like Kirk might have majored him last year or something. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think that Kirk did wrestle him last year.
Where is it? They did in what event was this? It's on Flow. Is this majors? I can't find the score.
They wrestled in the semis in 2023.
Yeah, I got this from.
They wrestled the All-Star in
2023. It was it a major?
4-2 decision.
Oh yeah, he majored him in 23.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
18-2, I think. 12 seconds.
That might have been the All-Star when
Oh,
he did
you're
that.
right. I take it back.
Okay.
This is the All-Star. Yep.
Okay. But he's wrestled him twice and beat him twice. Beat him 4-2 and then a major. The major was an exhibition, so let's take that away. So he beat him 4-2. So I think that I do think Kirk makes the finals. I just don't think anybody comes close to Gable. And I don't know what the hell Gable's going to do in the finals, but I feel like it's going to be... I feel like he's going to want to make a little bit of a statement in the finals. So I could see him doing something kind of weird and just, kicking the shit out of somebody, but I don't know.
So that's basically it. That's every weight class. With those projections, Penn State likely locks up another team title.
Yeah, I believe the projection was from Flow Wrestling was pretty large in
That's what
terms
it
of between first and second. So
kind of seems like. If you had to guess, who's going to finish second this year?
I would think Iowa.
That's what I was thought, but like
Yeah, I would
they
think
also
Iowa.
struggled in Big Tens though, so it was like
Yeah, I mean, I think that so Nebraska's a pretty interesting team. I think that Oklahoma State also has a case for second, but I do think that Iowa's got a lot of experience, and I think that if their guys can show up and if they can lean on if they can lean on the bigger names and stuff like that, and they can get some bonus points out of them, I think that they'll get second. But I think that Iowa, I think that Oklahoma State, I think that Nebraska all have a shot at second. But I would think Iowa's probably going to get second.
yeah. I found the Flow projected ones. Penn State projected at 157, Iowa at 70, Oklahoma State 68, Nebraska 62, Virginia Tech 60.
Yeah, Virginia
So,
Tech also has quite a few guys that, you
yeah.
know, bonus. It just depends because Penn State's been so dominant at nationals because their guys go out and wrestle for bonus points, and I don't think enough teams take that kind of mentality. And so it kind of depends if a couple guys can go out from one of these other teams and get a couple pins or a couple techs or whatever and just contribute to the team. They can make a big difference. Like you said, I think what'd you say, 70 and 68.5 between Iowa and
Yeah.
Oklahoma State. So, that's one extra pin or whatever, it's going to be close. I just don't think, I think it's pretty obvious that, who's going to win. So,
Am I wrong to think Oklahoma State's going to be one of those teams to go for those bonus points just for the sole fact it's year one? You want to get as high as you can. You're not going to get the number one team title, but
well, I think that's
go for
part of it,
two.
but they also, their entire culture has changed, and they're not the Oklahoma State of the past where
True.
they wrestled a little more conservative. I mean, you have your head coach is now a guy who contributed so many bonus points to the four team titles that he won as an athlete.
Yeah.
And their mentality is go out, score, 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 and if you give up points, it's okay. You just got to go score. You got to be the next one to score. So I think that they make a really interesting case, and they could easily take second place because of that. Because if they go out and they're really with that mentality where they're score, 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 they will overtake Iowa. Absolutely. Especially because Iowa's they're not a super offensive program as it is. I mean, they never really have been in recent memory. So,
All right, so that's every weight class. Starts Thursday morning. Going to be a long, long weekend of just straight up wrestling nonstop. So, going to be a fun one. A little bit of a prequel to NCAA basketball tournament. So that's going to be nice. But stay tuned for that. I'm sure we'll have more in terms of recaps of either the rounds or we'll do something, whether it be maybe day by day instead of round by round,
Yeah.
just because it makes it easier. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. But stay tuned on our podcast feed below on YouTube. If you're listening, hit the subscribe button down below. It's free, it's easy, it's simple. Keeps you updated on all our latest videos, podcasts, press conferences, etc. Also, if you're on Apple or Spotify, shoot us a review. Only give us 5 stars. If you're not giving us 5 stars, just don't review it. Simple as that. Really appreciate it. Helps us grow the pod, all that other nonsense. Check us out on pennstate.rivals.com. Check us out on Twitter at Penn State Rivals. Joey, I don't know what your Twitter is. Is it just Joey Clender?
at Clunder Joey.
Okay, see, you got to be complicated. You got to put it backwards.
Yeah. Well,
At Clen-
Joey Clunder was already taken by 13-year-old me, so I couldn't.
Oh, okay. So you did it to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So at Clender Joey on Twitter, I'm sure you're going to be live tweeting some thoughts as well.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for all that. Check out the Wrestling Room forum on the Penn State Rivals site, most popular wrestling forum on the web, I think. It's pretty close.
It's got to be one of them.
It is in terms of the team sites. I don't know about in terms of the big networks and stuff like that, but check it out. A lot of back and forth and a lot of controversy because there's always an Iowa fan that sneaks in there somewhere. But definitely check it out. For me and Joey, it's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.